The soul's journey is from ignorance to knowledge. That is the spiritual path, and that is the journey that is within the setup. And the setup is where we are, and will always be within the setup. The setup consists of reality and fantasy. So, to help navigate the setup, that is the reason the map was designed. The map is a map of the setup. And in order to go into the right direction, we need to know where we are. So that's where we are. We're within the setup, and the setup is reality and fantasy. And the setup is two universes, one invisible, the other visible. One real, the other not real. One is cause, the other is effect. Mistaking the one for the other is what causes suffering and what causes problems, and is what causes fear. So, aligning with fantasy, which is accepting that fantasy is reality, is living life in reverse. And that's going in the wrong direction on the journey. That's going deeper into suffering rather than going deeper into peace. And going deeper into peace is the opposite direction from going deeper into suffering. On the map, it's represented as going up or going down. Spiraling up or spiraling down. So we start the journey believing that lies are true, because what we're using to reason is the senses, and the senses are limited by nature. And the senses assume that what can be sensed is what is real. But what can be sensed is what's temporary, making it not real, because real has a specific meaning. And real means unchanging. So, by the nature of the temporary effect, it defaults to not being real. But what makes it difficult, it is what you do see, and it is what the senses can perceive. So, we have to start believing that lies are true. And believing that lies are true means ignorance. So that's where we have to start. The amount of time we spend under that impression, under that delusion, is determined on enough pain and enough knowledge. So after enough pain, accepting lies as truth, and after enough knowledge that you don't have to do that, that's what allows for us to leave the prison cell that we were born into, that we chose to be born into, and that we've been working on getting out of for who knows how long. So the map is there to show you, based on how you feel in the moment, whether or not you are making the right decision, and which direction you're going in, whether you're going in the right direction or whether you're going into the wrong direction. Going into the wrong direction is what we call suffering and emotional pain. That's what we don't want. That's what we don't need. So, humbling ourselves to realize that it's not someone else's fault and we're not a victim. Accepting that the suffering that we're experiencing is not because of anyone or anything else. It's because we ourselves are accepting lies in place of truth. And the reason that is because we're using sense-based reasoning, which is what we came into life using. And it's what we see everyone else we know using. So we assume that that's the way to reason based on appearance, rather than basing our reasoning off of non-appearance, which would be basing our reasoning on reality, being based in reality, which is being based in God, which is being based in love. And because this way of reasoning isn't common, it's very difficult for us to make the decision to use that reasoning rather than the appearance-based reasoning. Appearance-based reasoning is slavery. It's the opposite of freedom, and that's why it's designed to hurt a lot. So you can stop doing that and move into the right direction and come back into reality where you belong. So the map is there for you to check within yourself and check on the map where you would prefer to be and where you are right now, and to see how far away you are from that. So the soul's journey is the journey from ignorance to knowledge. There's a few steps that go along with the journey from belief in lies to belief in truth, because that's where the suffering journey ends and the peace journey begins. That's where your new life begins. Once you come back to reality, you decide to come back to reality, that's where your new life can begin. So that on the map is represented by the middle line of the 0 point. That's where the two worlds meet. And that's where we begin our new journey into ever upward ascending levels of expanding our consciousness into the depths of what it means to be part of God's setup, and seeing how close we can get to being like perfection. And that's going to take a long time. So the good news is, once you have come back to reality, you have left the cave of ignorance. You have decided to leave fantasy behind because you recognize that spiritual maturity is what you're after. And that's being able to be calm and be in control of your reactions and of your emotions without necessarily being in control. This is allowing knowledge to be in control of you. Your accepting of what is true will now automatically be in control of you. So you're not really using your willpower at this point. It's more of an automatic response based on your decision to reject what is not true and accept only what is true. And as easy as that sounds, it takes a very long time to get to that point, and many lifetimes of trying again and again to get to this point. So we start believing lies are true. We end believing the truth is true, and that's where our new journey begins, and which really probably has no ending. For all intents and purposes, it's just going to keep going, because God is unlimited. So there's no ceiling, even though it feels like there is one every level you break through, because each level is a ceiling. But once you break through, the ceiling that you reached is now the floor. And there's another ceiling above that. So it's a never-ending upward journey forever, ascending into godhood. But before we can get there, we have to get to level 0, which is accepting that the truth is what is true only, rather than accepting what's not true as true. And that's really what the map is for. It's to show you the journey and what to expect on the journey, and also to recognize where you are within the journey, because we're all on the journey to enlightenment, to inner peace, to accepting only what is objectively true. So the common theme of being in fantasy, being based in fantasy, is pain and suffering. And the cool thing about pain is once you've had enough of it, you can choose to never have it again. And that's where you know you have been able to make the decision that you're waiting to make. But you can't make it because you haven't had enough pain not making it, or you don't have enough knowledge that you can make it, or a combination of both, which is what is going to happen to you before you make the decision. You're going to have enough knowledge and you're going to have enough pain to make the decision. So I want to talk about some of the steps in between the beginning of the awakening journey and the end of the awakening journey. When you have had enough pain from belief that lies are true, you will begin to do research, because you're going to recognize that you need some answers, because you know the answers that you need are going to be what takes you out of the pain that you're in. And the reason belief in lies causes pain is because we're dealing with objective reality and objective fantasy. So the analogy is like being under the impression that 2 + 2 = 5 and trying to build a house under that impression. If you sincerely believe that 2 + 2 is 5 and you try to build a house, you're not going to end up with a house. You're going to end up with something else. And it's not going to be able to serve you. It's not going to be what you want. And it's going to cause you pain and frustration that you're doing all this work, but it's not giving you results, the results that you want. It's giving you consequences. It's not giving you benefits. So it's our job to recognize that it's not the universe that's wrong, it's us that's wrong. We are the ones under the wrong impression, and it's no one's fault. It's just our responsibility to find out if we're doing that and to also stop doing that when we've had enough. So that's the reason why ignorance is pain and knowledge is peace. Because one leads to consequences, the other leads to benefits. And we want benefits. So once you get to the point of no return that you begin to do research because of your belief in lies and enough pain from the lies, you're going to try to change something. And what you're going to try to do is change your beliefs and change your definitions. And the way to do that is by getting answers. But before you can get your answers, you're going to need to get your reasons to get the answers. So once you've done enough research, which is enough pain from research, but still not out of pain completely, because you're able to humble yourself, see how you feel in the moment. If it's not inner peace, you're not done yet. So there's obviously still more to be done after the research phase. The research phase isn't necessarily going to allow you to make the decision. What it's going to do is it's going to show you that the answers are out there and that the knowledge that you need is out there, and it's going to make you aware of that knowledge. being aware of the knowledge is not going to save you. Also, having the knowledge is not going to save you. The last thing you're going to have to do after you have acquired the knowledge is you're going to have to accept only that knowledge that you have found as what is objectively true. And to do that, you're going to need a really good reason to do that. Because without reasons, you might have your answers, but you might not accept them as what's true, objectively speaking. Because it's very difficult to, in the world that is not aware or does not accept this knowledge, to accept this knowledge for yourself. So we go from belief in lies to the point of enough pain from the lies that we begin doing research. We spend time doing research until we've had enough pain from doing research to the point that we need to realize that we need a good enough reason to get our good enough answers so we can get to the point of belief in truth, which is where we're trying to go. And unconsciously, we recognize that that is what we're not doing. So pain will be with you through the entire spiritual journey until you get to the point of no return where you make the decision to accept only what is true. So if you're on the journey, it is a never-ending journey, the entire spiritual journey. But in terms of beginning and ending, we're talking about the beginning and ending of suffering. And that's the beginning and ending of being based in fantasy and starting your new life being based in reality. And those have clear A to B points. And then B becomes the new A. And we'll keep going on forever and ever in our awareness. The reason we want to get to belief in truth is because we don't want to experience pain anymore. We don't want to experience negative emotions because we, as a species, have gotten to the point where they are no longer necessary. And they were good for a time, but they at some point will not be good for a time. It's like having training wheels. If you are using training wheels forever, you're never going to know how to find your own balance point in the center, which is what you need to do. And negative emotions are like fuel. They can help you get work done, but it's not high enough quality for the refined state of humanity that is being born. We're going to need high quality fuel, and that would be positive emotions, because whatever work we need to get done can be done with negative emotions, but that's going to lead to consequences, because feeling negative and having pain and suffering is only possible while under the impression that reality is fantasy and that fantasy is reality. And that's living life in reverse. So whatever work we're going to need to do, it will be much better using high quality fuel, like positive emotions, to get that work done. So we want out of pain, which means we want into reality. We've had enough of living life in fantasy, because fantasy is what's not real, and you are what is real. So you are the source of power. Being the source of power, you're going to have to give that power to something. It's either going to be to what is true or what is not true. If you give your power to what is not true, the results are going to be nothing of value. If you give your power to what is true, the results are going to be everything of value. And that's what we want. But we don't know exactly how to get there, because the knowledge itself will not set you free. And we've been taught that the knowledge will set you free. But what you'll learn on the journey is, as you acquire the knowledge that you need, you might feel a little better, but the pain is still there. So the last question on the journey, this leg of the journey, is how can I know everything and still be in pain? Because the knowledge is supposed to set me free, but it's not doing that. So what you're going to realize is the reason the knowledge hasn't set you free yet is because you haven't accepted only that knowledge as what's true yet. And the only way to do that is with enough pain from not doing it. So my recommendation is not to go through more pain. My recommendation is to allow yourself to recognize all the pain that you're already in. And all the different things that are causing you pain now have caused you pain before and could potentially cause you pain in the future. Allow those things to appear to you in your mind. Because what you're going to do is you're going to be able to recognize what all those things have in common. And all those things are things that have happened or are happening. And what has happened or is happening is the appearance. And your knowledge gathering has led you to understand that what does appear is what is not real. So by being in pain, you're accepting that what is not true is what's true. Another way to say that is you're accepting that what has happened is no good. When if it falls within the setup, which we're in, it must actually be good, because no good cannot come from good, and good cannot come from no good. The setup is working perfectly, it's good. So if you're in pain, you're saying something within the setup is no good, so you're wrong. And that's why it hurts, so you can stop doing that and change your mind. And come back to reality, which is where you want to be. That's why you're on the path looking for your answers. So once you've done enough research, once you've got enough reasons, once you've gotten enough answers, and you're in enough pain, you will be able to make the decision that's going to bring you back to reality, which is level 0. And that's like coming out of the water, where we were born. That's the womb of the matrix. That's the false reality. That's where there's no air, it's dark, and there's a lot of pressure. And it's not where we're meant to be. You were born in the womb, but you're not meant to stay in the womb. You're meant to come into reality and breathe air and be free. And you can't be free until you know yourself. Knowing yourself is accepting yourself. You won't be able to accept yourself until you know about yourself. And knowing all about yourself and knowing all about God and knowing all about life, it can't take you all the way. It can take you right up to where you need to get to. But you're going to be the one that has to make the decision. It's not going to be forced on you, and it's not going to just happen to you. It's going to be a decision that you make. And that's what is not abundantly clear, and it's not completely obvious while being on the journey, because we have been taught that the knowledge will set you free. So the revelation here is the last layer of the matrix that you will break through is how you feel about what you now know. And you're going to feel good or you're not going to feel good. If you're not feeling good, then you are accepting what is not true still. And when you know everything and you still do that, that's going to cause pain. But the difference between having the pain and not having the knowledge and having the knowledge and the pain is that last piece where you get to realize that you're the one doing it and you're the one that gets to choose whether you're going to come back to reality or whether you're going to stay in fantasy, whether you're going to stay under the impression that a lie is true. And as a spiritual seeker, you know that you're way too smart to keep doing that. So the map is just a reminder for you to recognize the goal, which is the target, which is the point, which is God, which is at the top of the mountain. And we were born under the water. At the furthest point away from where we're trying to go. So the first step is to get out of the water and at least come onto dry land. That's going to be your best chance of getting to that mountaintop that you can see from underneath the water, but it's not clear. It's not totally obvious to you that that's where you're trying to go. But it is the light that you recognize is what's true, and it is where you want to go. And going the opposite direction is not where you want to go. And if you've been going in the wrong direction, I'm sure you recognize that that's not the direction you want to go. And if you're not feeling peace, that's not the feeling that you want to have. Because you know that that's what's going to cause more problems and more consequences for you and for who you know. And you want benefits and you want others to benefit from you. Because you are love. But you've been trained that that's not true. And that you, instead of being here to give, that you are here to get something. That's a lie that we were trained to believe. That what's important is getting something rather than giving something. So we're trying to get to the point where we have surrendered our life to giving rather than surrendering our life to getting. Because there's only one. So taking, getting, is taking from yourself, and giving is giving to yourself. So the senses can't perceive the reality of the situation because the senses are limited, and what the senses perceive is separation and non-oneness. But the reality of the situation is oneness, and that can only be known with your mind and not just sensed with your body. One of the other primary delusions that we're born into is through the senses, seeing yourself in the mirror, you're going to believe that that is you. But that's a deception, and what you see in the mirror is not you. What you see in the mirror is your body. You are what is in control of the body. Your body is the effect world. You are the cause world. You were not created. You were never born. You will never die. Because you are formless. Because you are I am. And that's what God is. I am. And what God has, you have. what God is, you are. And the goal is to do what God is doing. And what God is doing is giving, because God is completely aware of the difference between reality and fantasy. And reality is service to other, and fantasy is service to self. And service to self is fantasy, is a lie, because there is only one. So by not serving the other, you are taking from yourself. And God can't do that because God is perfect, and it is complete, and it is fully aware. It is what is real. It is what is true. It is what is objectively correct. It's the right way of thinking. It's knowledge. It's freedom. It's peace. It's love. It's understanding. It's forgiveness. It's undivided. It's formless. It's timeless. It's invisible. What God is doing is not God, but what God is doing is visible, is in form, is in time. It is God's body that you can see. Just like what you see in the mirror is not you, it is your body. And your body is made in your image. And your image is your self-image. And your self-image is either going to be a clear image or it's going to be an unclear image. And that image depends on whether you're under the impression that a lie is true or you're under the impression that only the truth is what's true. And you can only be under the correct impression after you make the decision, after you've had enough pain and after you've had enough knowledge. You will be able to come back to reality, which is where you belong, and it's where you're going to end up at some point. And it's going to be now. Whenever you make the decision, it will be now. Because there is only one moment, now. So there's really no difference whether you wait and make the decision, because it will be now then. So at the end of the day, it's going to be now when you make the decision. So why not make the decision now? If you can't make the decision, that means you don't have enough pain or you don't have enough knowledge. You will be able to recognize within yourself which one of the two you're missing. If it's enough pain, look at the pain you're already in. If it's enough knowledge, get your answers from your research until what is objectively true becomes totally obvious to you. Once it's totally obvious and you're still in pain, realize that you are the one doing something wrong here, which is still not being able to accept what is objectively true. And that's your decision to make. And that's what's not totally clear on the spiritual path. There's a feeling that something is going to just happen to you automatically by finding your answers. But that's not going to happen. You're going to be the one that makes the decision. So use the map to see reality and fantasy and recognize that one is red because it's hot and it hurts. The other is blue because it's nice and cool and it doesn't hurt. And one has a certain sensation, the other has the opposite sensation. Being under the weight of ignorance the pressure is extreme. Being under the weight of knowledge, the pressure is extremely light. And that's where you want to be. You want to be 2 feet on the ground in the world, but not be of the world, which means to have the way of thinking that the world is using. And the way of thinking the world is using is sense-based reasoning or appearance-based reasoning. And appearance-based reasoning is what is causing the pain and suffering that you are probably experiencing if you're on the journey. Because there's no peace on the journey. The peace that you are looking for is at the 0 point of rebirth into reality. And that's where you get to live your life the way you have always wanted to live your life, which is free from pain, from suffering, and from fear. So look at the map. Whatever you're feeling right now is where you are on the map. If there's a lot of pressure, if there's a lot of pain, you are living in fantasy. You don't belong there. And if you could choose not to be there, you would. You would much rather not be in pain, and you would much rather not have fear. You would much rather have peace and be in love with yourself and with life and with everything around you. Because love is freedom, and that's what you want. So do your research, get your reasons, get your answers, and then get back to reality, where you belong. When you arrive back into reality, you're going to be welcomed. Like every other stage of rebirth that we go through, there are others there waiting for you to arrive, and you will be welcomed. And you will be at peace, finally. And you'll be at peace because you made the decision to be at peace. And making the decision to be at peace means making the decision to stop believing in lies. Because you have realized you're way too smart to keep doing that. There's no reason for you to do that. There are reasons for you to do that, but there's no good reason for you to do that. There's only no good reasons for you to do that. I hope this helps you see where you are within the setup by looking at the map. If you're feeling good, you're in reality. If you're not feeling good, you're in fantasy. And the choice is always yours whether you want to go back to fantasy or not. But once you get a taste of reality and what life can be like outside of suffering, you would have to be an idiot to go back. And you're not that. So congratulations. Enjoy your new life and try to remember that finding peace is the beginning. And your life is not going to be over after you make this decision. That's where your life is going to begin. Because until you make that decision, you don't have free will. You are a slave to your senses. And you don't want to be that. You want to be free from your senses. You want to be free from the world. You want to be free from your programming. You want to be free from fear. You want to be free from ignorance. That's why you're on the journey. That's why you made the decision to do the research and to get the reasons and to get the answers. So don't give up. Realize that if you do keep going, you will get there. And realize that to get there, you're going to have to make the decision. It can be intimidating and it can be scary, realizing the responsibility and the power that comes with being who you are. And it can be challenging to make this decision until you realize that making the decision is exactly what you want to do. And it is exactly why you got onto the path. So it is easy. So keep it easy. Keep it simple. If you're not feeling peace, humble yourself and accept that you don't have what you're looking for yet. And don't give up, because if you keep going after it, you will get it. And you will get it eventually, in this life or another. And when you get it, it will be now. So why wait?